Why does buying from a good cheese shop often beat picking up a wedge from your supermarket? How do people underestimate the physical labor and other demands of being a cheesemonger? And how does using a cheese iron reveal where the wheel of cheese is in its life? In today's episode, you'll hear the stories and tips that answer those questions in part 2 of our chat with Michael Finnerty, author of the terrific new book, The Cheese Cure: How Comté and Camembert Fed My Soul. You don't need to have listened to part 1 from last week first, but if you missed it, go back and have a listen after you finish this one. By the end of our conversation, you'll also discover why two wheels of the same Comté can taste noticeably different, how grading systems help protect cheese quality, why locally made cheeses can sometimes outperform famous imported cheeses, how cheesemongers tell the difference between a flawed cheese and one that simply smells or tastes stronger than their personal taste preferences, what causes washed rind cheeses to develop their famously funky aromas, what made the Hervé Mont 1924 Bleu so unforgettable that Michael describes it as a narcotic cheese, and why you should always taste a cheese before buying it. Do you have a thirst to learn about wine? Do you love stories about wonderfully obsessive people, hauntingly beautiful places, and amusingly awkward social situations? Well, that's the blend here on the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. I'm your host, Natalie McLean, and each week I share with you unfiltered conversations with celebrities in the wine world, as well as confessions from my own tipsy journey as I write my third book on this subject. I'm so glad you're here. Now pass me that bottle, please, and let's get started. Welcome to episode 388. So, what's new in the drinks world this week? British Columbia Premier David Eby and Alberta MLA for Boundary Similkameen, Rolly Russell, signed a new memorandum of understanding ending the ban on direct-to-consumer wine sales between the two provinces, opening up the Alberta market to BC's 320 wineries that contribute $2 billion to the BC economy. And by the way, Alberta does have wineries, but they tend to make wine from fruit other than grapes, so berries and so on. And let's get into our animal stories, or what I'm going to call going forward this week in fur, feathers, and fermentation. A vineyard in South Australia has made headlines this week by employing a guard goose named Gary, of course, to protect its premium Chardonnay grapes from local cockatoos. Gary has become a local celebrity after a video of him chasing a drone meant to monitor crop health garnered millions of views, proving that nature's security is sometimes more vigilant than high-tech solutions. Meanwhile, a winery in California is offering cat yoga in a cave, where participants perform sun salutations among aging barrels of Cabernet Sauvignon, while kittens from a local shelter roam on the mats. The program has been so successful that the winery has reported a 100% adoption rate for the feline tasting assistants. In the UK, a hidden stash of pre-war gin was discovered behind a false wall in a London basement during a kitchen renovation. The owner originally thought the bottles were old cleaning supplies until a local auctioneer identified them as limited 1930s batch of Gordon's gin, which had been perfectly preserved by the cool, dark conditions behind the brickwork. They were worth $2,000 a bottle, just a little more than your Windex. In Japan, a new bar has opened where the cover charge is a piece of original art. The Sketch and Sip in Tokyo requires patrons to draw a portrait of the bartender before they are allowed to see the cocktail menu, resulting in a wall covered in increasingly abstract and drunken interpretations of the staff. Though I don't know how they get drunk if they can't see the cocktail menu first. Anyway, an artist has created a series of micro masterpieces painted entirely with red wine reductions. Using a single drop of Malbec, she creates hyper-realistic landscapes that change color over time as the wine oxidizes, so the art literally ages on the wall. The shift toward intentional drinking is further evidenced by a recent Nielsen report showing that 53% of North American adults now prioritize the wellness impact of their drink choices over traditional brand loyalty. And in science, did you know that wine grapes are actually the most planted fruit crop in the entire world? We might think of apples or bananas as the global leaders, but there are 18 million acres of vineyards globally. However, because wine grapes have much thicker skins and higher acidity than table grapes you buy at the grocery store, they are virtually inedible as a snack, proving that nature clearly intended them to be fermented rather than to be eaten. For your food and drink calendar this week, Wednesday, May 6th is a triple bill. National Beverage Day is wonderfully democratic, since tea, tonic, beer, wine, and sparkling water all get a seat at the same table. It's a fine excuse for a build-your-own spritz bar, a tea cocktail with citrus and honey, or a zero-proof pairing flight that runs from kombucha to alcohol-free Riesling. May 6th is also International No Diet Day, founded by British activist Mary Evans Young in 1992 to promote body acceptance and skip the diet culture noise. That gives you full permission, of course, to drink something rich, like a Sauternes with blue cheese or a fully loaded espresso martini topped with a small mountain of whipped cream. Build a cocktail charcuterie board where every garnish is a deep-fried snack. Why not? Or run a blind calorie guest tasting game where the person who picks the most indulgent garnish wins a bottle. And May 6th also marks National Crêpe Suzette Day, which all but begs for a flaming pan of orange and Grand Marnier crepes set alight, or crepes, crepes, set alight in front of unsuspecting guests, ideally paired with a chilled demi-sec Vouvray. According to legend, this dish was created by accident in 1895 when 14-year-old chef Henri Charpentier set a sauce on fire while serving the future King Edward VII at Monte Carlo and decided to bluff it as innovation. The name Suzette refers to Edward's dining companion, Mademoiselle Suzette. And it's National Nurses Day in both Canada and the US, kicking off National Nurses Week, which is a worthy reason to raise a low-alcohol by volume spritz, pour a round of mocktails, or host a wine and cheese night where someone else does the work for once. Thursday, May 7th is National Cosmopolitan Day, a tribute to the cranberry lime vodka classic that became a pop culture accessory before most cocktails had a publicist. Try a white cranberry version for something less sweet, a blood orange twist, or a mini Cosmo flight in 3 coupe glasses with 3 different garnishes. May 7th is also National Roast Leg of Lamb Day, a tradition that traces back to ancient Passover rites and spring festivals. It practically begs for a bold, herbaceous Syrah or a classic Bordeaux to cut through the rich fat. For something playful, try a reverse pairing where you pick the wine first and require the chef to season the lamb to match the specific notes of herbs, plum, or black pepper in the glass. Friday, May 8th is National Have a Coke Day. Wonder who came up with that, which sits sweetly alongside National Coconut Cream Pie Day. The Coke side opens up a world of variations from a classic rum and Coke with fresh lime to a Mexican Coke spiked with mezcal and a pinch of sea salt. The coconut cream side marries beautifully with a chilled glass of Sauternes. Sauternes is definitely on my brain today. Or a Tokai, or a coconut rum espresso martini if you're feeling ambitious. Saturday, May 9th is a full house. It's World Moscato Day, honoring the aromatic muscat grape, one of the oldest and most perfume-forward grape families in the world, with origins traced to the Southeast Arabian Peninsula thousands of years ago. Pair Moscato with spicy Thai takeout, berry pavlova, or pour a low-alcohol Moscato d'Asti, they usually come in at only 5 or 6% alcohol, at brunch so that you don't have to do a full calendar reset. May 9th is also Europe Day, marking the 1950 Schuman Declaration and the idea of European unity, which is a tidy fit for the wine crowd given how many classic wine and spirit traditions come from the continent. Build a European flight that hops from Champagne to Rioja to Greek Asertico, and lay out a tapas-style snack board or mix a cocktail around a continental aperitif like Lillet, Aperol, or a Cocchi Americano. And it's National Foodies Day, which is essentially permission to eat dinner at 3 different restaurants in one night, take an annoying number of photos, and call it research. Sunday, May 10th, is Mother's Day, and one of the busiest sipping holidays on the spring calendar. You betcha we need our wine. Think brunch bubbles, a floral gin cocktail with elderflower and cucumber, or a zero-proof garden drink so that everyone has a glass in hand. The smartest move is to pick a bottle she actually likes rather than one you think she should like. Stop telling me what to do. May 10th is also National Shrimp Day, celebrating a seafood that accounts for more than 1/4 of all North American seafood consumption. That makes it the perfect time to experiment with a manzanilla sherry, a crisp vino verde, or a chilled muscadet. Run a shrimp tail competition where every participant designs a cocktail, shrimp tail, using a prawn as a functional stirrer or garnish, or host a maritime mimosa brunch with salt-rimmed glasses and a splash of pickle brine. Monday, May 11th is Eat What You Want Day, which requires no further commentary, except that it pairs beautifully with National Dough Diet Day. It also kicks off Craft Beer Week, a fine excuse to celebrate by trying a beer from a local brewery you've never heard of. Tuesday, May 12th closes the week with National Nutty Fudge Day, a tribute to a confection that gained popularity at women's colleges in the 19th century when students secretly cooked up batches in their own dorm rooms after curfew. This calls for a nutty oxidized tawny port, a frangelico-based fudge flip cocktail, or a boozy fudge flight where each piece is paired with a different cask-strength whiskey. You go, girls. Back to Mother's Day. On CTV's The Social this week, we raise a glass to the woman who shaped us. For some, that's mom. For others, it's an aunt, a grandmother, a mentor, or a cherished friend. Whoever she is, we honor her, and we're bottling up her best advice and pairing each pearl of wisdom with a wine that was made to deliver it. As a mom myself, I've been on the receiving and giving sides of this advice. My son took them to heart. I, on the other hand, was the rebel with her fingers in her ears singing, la, 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 can't hear you. Poor Mom. She did say you'll thank me later. Well, this is later, so thank you, Mom. All right, what's the first wine and advice we're uncorking? It is a mom classic. Always put your best foot forward. So we're starting off on the right foot with the bread and butter Prosecco, made in a small town close to Venice, Italy. Winemaker Linda Trotta works with a family who has owned their winery for 90 years. The wine's name itself captures Mom's philosophy. Do the basics well and don't overthink it. That's your bread and butter, in life and in the glass. This Prosecco is crafted from Glera, Chardonnay, and Pinot Grigio grapes, which gives it that fresh orchard fruit character, making this Prosecco so charming. It's approachable, polished, and effortlessly social. That's Mom in a bottle. On the palate, you'll taste ripe yellow, apple, kiwi, and peach, with soft bubbles that give it a creamy mouthfeel. It's bright and quietly confident, with a freshness to welcome your Mother's Day guests and serve throughout the afternoon or evening. This would be lovely with a platter of calamari and mild cheeses. Wine number 2 pairs with her suggestion to dress in layers, which is mom speak for Canadian weather isn't always predictable, even if your teenage moods were. Beach Glass Riesling Pinot Grigio is made at Ontario's only beachfront winery and named for those smooth, sea-worn pieces of glass that you find on the beaches of Lake Erie North Shore. Like Mom's advice, it reveals its polished wisdom with time. The wine itself dresses in layers. This is a blend of Riesling for a bright top note and Pinot Grigio for its luscious melon side. You'll smell clean, fresh aromas of grapefruit, lemon curd, and a cool whisper of sea spray on warm stone. On the palate, it's layered like a fresh Canadian spring morning, crisp at the start, sunny in the middle, and a soft mineral breeze on the finish. It tastes like optimism, but with structure. Wouldn't this be wonderful with a citrus-glazed salmon warm off the grill? Wine number 3 pairs with Eat Your Greens. No, eat them now. You can't have dessert. Greens are famously tricky to pair with wine. This Mezzacarona Pinot Grigio from Italy wins the match every time. Its zesty acidity and citrus snap make greens taste great. And Mom will beam. Look at you, eating your greens, and I didn't have to even take away your screen time. Mezzacarona is one of Italy's oldest wine cooperatives, founded in 1904 by farming families working the dramatic slopes of the Dolomites in northern Italy. Today, more than 1,500 small growers still tend those alpine vineyards where cool mountain air and crystalline light give this estate-grown and estate-bottled Pinot Grigio its signature crispness. Every cluster is picked by hand, which keeps the grapes whole and the aromas pristine. Mezzacarona was practicing sustainable farming long before it became trendy, with integrated pest management, water conservation, and renewable energy. Mom would call that doing things the right way the first time. The vineyards are in Trentino, in the Italian Alps region that hosted the 2026 Winter Olympics. Mezzacarona was just named the best Italian cooperative for the past 25 years at the Mundus Vini 2025 Awards. Mother Earth raised those vines well. The name Mezzacarona is the town itself, nestled between Lake Garda and the Austrian border. This is one of the most recognized and loved Pinot Grigios in Canada, and when you taste it, the first thing you want next to it is something garden fresh. Mom will catch you reaching for that salad bowl and smile from across the table. Finally, the moment she's been waiting for 30, 40, 50 years? I don't know. On the palate, it's zesty and bright with notes of green apple, white pear, and a squeeze of lemon on the finish. This would be beautiful with a buttery spring pea risotto. Wine number 4 goes with Mom's classic, Always Be Yourself. Whitehaven Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand is always itself, no apologies. You know it the second you take a sip. Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is one of the most recognized wine styles on the planet, and Whitehaven helped define it. The winery was founded in 1994 by Sue and Greg White, who sailed the Pacific Ocean for months before anchoring in the stunning Marlborough Sounds to shelter from hurricane season. In fact, their daughter, Samantha, spent the first 6 months of her life at sea. They were inspired to stay there and start a winery. Whitehaven is named for their family and for the place that felt like their safe haven. You can still see the anchor on the label. Now that's a love story Mom would approve of. Whitehaven has achieved the respected Appellation Marlborough Wine Accreditation. It's the gold seal of authenticity for Marlborough wine. This mark, which you'll find on the back label, guarantees that what is in the bottle is 100% Marlborough-grown fruit in the vineyards, certified by Sustainable Wine Growing New Zealand and blind tasted by an expert panel to guarantee its quality. This wine was also selected for the AMW Annual Collection, a selection of 12 wines that reflect the very best of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. So when you pour Whitehaven, you're getting the real Marlborough, protected, proven, and positively delicious. The grapes come from the stony soils of the Wero and Atoire river valleys, where bright sunshine and cool nights coax out the wine's vibrant character. It's a wine that knows exactly who it is, and that's something Mom always wanted for you, too. On the palate, you'll find notes of fresh lemon, white peach, and a zesty lime finish that snaps you to attention. It's bright, dry, and full of personality, the wine equivalent of Mom's no-nonsense pep talk. How great would this be with freshly shucked oysters and a squeeze of lemon? And our final bottle today pairs beautifully with Sharing is Caring, Mom's way of saying no one should sit out the toast. French Bloom Le Rosé is a luxury, alcohol-free sparkling wine crafted in Lemieux in the south of France. It was co-founded by Constance Jablonski and Maggie Frère-Jean Tattinger, whose name is famous for champagne. It's made from organic Chardonnay and Pinot Noir grapes, certified vegan, halal, with no added sugars or sulfites and just 19 calories per glass. French Bloom has been named the world's best alcohol-free sparkling wine for 3 years now, and it's also the official non-alcoholic sparkling wine of Formula One racing for the next decade. This wine truly lets everyone join the toast, including expectant moms, designated drivers, race car drivers, and anyone choosing a mindful moment. Mom's goal is always to have the whole family around the table together, and with this wine, no one misses that celebratory moment. On the palate, you'll find wild berries and white peach with a delicate rose petal lift. The bubbles are fine and playful, and the finish is silky with a soft mineral whisper. How lovely this would be with a delicate tuna tartare on a crown of microgreens. So here's to the advice that aged better than we expected, and to the woman who waited patiently for us to catch up. Then, on CHCH Morning Live, we're celebrating Mom with Canadian wines and craft beer from coast to coast in honor of all that she's poured into us for years. A lot of it was emotional support, and some of it was orange juice we didn't ask for but drank anyway. We're starting on the West Coast with Joie Farm's En Famille Chardonnay. You'll always remember where you were the first time you taste it. En Famille is French for with family, which makes it a joyful Mother's Day pour. The fruit comes from the Convida and Seacrest mountain vineyards. Convida sits on the Shakaha Bench, one of BC's newest and most exciting sub-appellations. Winemaker Richard Charnock uses ambient ferments from natural airborne yeast, which means no commercial yeast and no shortcuts. He lets the land and the grapes do the work, the opposite of helicopter parenting. This wine took silver at the Chardonnay du Monde, the world's largest Chardonnay competition, and Richard's mom is so very proud of him. This wine and the Pinot Noir are available at the LCBO. Of course, you can order them directly from the winery and they'll ship them right to your doorstep, no matter where you live in Canada. It's a great way to support small Canadian producers and family farms. On the nose, you'll get baked pecan, meringue, vanilla bean, and fresh white flowers. I love when my tasting notes start smelling like a bakery. There are layers of orchard fruit, sage, tarragon, and a touch of cinnamon to add depth. The finish is long, elegant, and built to age. On the palate, there are subtle mineral notes of wet rock and granite to bring structure. Hints of cherry blossom and baked pine needle evoke the warmth of the valley. The palate is effortlessly creamy, yet lifted by mouth-watering acidity. Bright citrus, lemon curd, and crisp apple meet delicate herbs, apple cinnamon, and the earthy warmth of sunlit pine trees, finishing with a whisper of straw and spice. This is the Chardonnay that converts the anything but Chardonnay crowd, ABC. Wouldn't it be heavenly with pan-seared scallops in a brown butter lemon sauce? Staying with Joie Farm, we also have their Pinot Noir. It's generous and fruit-forward with a round, silky texture. This is the wine you want to open tonight, even before dinner is on the table. On the palate, you'll get bright cherry, raspberry jam, and a touch of cinnamon, lifted by notes of small violets. It's like a forest floor went to finishing school. The palate carries that signature Pinot silkiness right through a long, gentle finish, and it would be perfect with cedar-planked salmon. Now let's head to the other coast, Nova Scotia, and something worth toasting. On March 2nd, Ontario and Nova Scotia signed an agreement that allows small wineries, breweries, and distilleries in both provinces to ship drinks straight to your door across provincial lines. There's never been an easier moment or a better one to support a small Canadian producer and delight Mom's taste buds at the same time. It's almost like the government actually wants us to be happy. Go figure. Sea Level Brewing at Millstone Harvest Brewhouse and Farm is nestled in the heart of Annapolis Valley. They're the only estate brewery in Nova Scotia, which means they grow most of their ingredients on their family farm, including the hops, barley, and fruit. They've won gold at the Atlantic Brewing Awards for their Blue Heron Extra Special Bitter. Sea Level was only one of 10 craft breweries in Nova Scotia when they opened back in 2007. Now there are more than 50 in the province. The Millstone Harvest Pale Ale is their bestseller, brewed with 100% farm-grown malted barley and a blend of Glacier, Cashmere, and Cascade hops. You'll taste honey, light malt, lemon, and a touch of melon, with a refreshing lemongrass lift on the finish. This would go beautifully with golden Atlantic haddock fish and chips. Next up, the Raspberry Blossom Cider. They start with their crisp, dry Valley Blossom cider made from apples sourced across the Annapolis Valley, then blend in fresh pressed juice from raspberries grown right there on their farm. It's crisp and dry with a subtle sweetness balanced by light tartness and juicy raspberry that lingers on the finish. Picture pink sunshine in a glass. It would sing alongside a fresh fruit salad with a honey citrus dressing. And last up from Sea Level Brewing is their Blueberry Pale Ale. They blend pressed wild blueberry juice from Van Dyke's Farm, a beloved Nova Scotia institution, into Millstone Harvest Pale Ale base. You'll taste wild blueberry, blueberry jam, honey, and a hint of lemon zest all over that gentle pale ale base. It's like dessert in a pint glass without being too sweet. 2 of those 4 tasting notes are blueberry, which is a level of conviction I respect. This would be wonderful with warm blueberry grunt, that classic Atlantic Canada cobbler dessert. And finally, we're coming home to Ontario and finishing in our own backyard with the Good Earth Food and Wine Company in Niagara. Good Earth was one of the first farm-to-table wineries in Niagara. It started as a small cooking school and working farm. Over the years, Open Table has named it one of Canada's top 100 restaurants overall, and tops for both brunch and lunch specifically. So when you take Mom for a visit, you can treat her to dinner, and she can indulge in the ricotta gnocchi or the Wellington County prime sirloin, and then enjoy some wine on the patio with live music. For weddings, the winery offers a beautiful backdrop of their vineyard. Mom's been wondering, by the way, when you're going to pop the question, so get moving along so she doesn't have to keep nudging you on that. This rosé is a juicy blend of Cabernet Franc and Gamay grapes that burst with aromas of fresh strawberry and watermelon. It has that refreshing, juicy acidity, and then it lingers with a finish of sun-warmed herbs and wildflowers. It wakes up your senses like a cold splash of water on your face, but way more delicious and socially acceptable. This is a beautiful Niagara expression that holds its own next to European classics. It would be lovely with a fragrant Thai green curry. So here's to Mom, who poured everything into us and now deserves a glass or 2 to celebrate her, and maybe a quiet room where no one is asking her where their socks are. On Instagram, I'm at Natalie McLean Wine. Come for the drinks, stay for brunch. Back to today's episode, 3 of you will win a copy of Michael Finnerty's terrific new book, The Cheese Cure, How Comté and Camembert Fed My Soul. If you'd like to win a copy, please email me and let me know you'd like to win. It doesn't matter where you live. I'll choose 3 winners randomly from those who contact me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. Keep them for yourself or give them as gifts. If you're reading the paperback or ebook or listening to the audiobook of my memoir, Wine Witch on Fire, Rising from the Ashes of Divorce, Defamation, and Drinking Too Much, a national bestseller and one of Amazon's best books of the year, I'd love to hear from you at natalie@nataliemclean.com. I'll put a link in the show notes to all retailers worldwide at nataliemclean.com/388. Okay, on with the show. Now, you were given what you call the cheese talk, a dissuasion technique delivered by Kian, I think, a fellow cheesemonger who worked at your stall called Mon Cheesemonger. I'm probably butchering the accents here.
Yeah, no, it's Mons. You can pronounce
Mons.
the S. It's a proper name. It's named after a person.
Oh, okay.
A family, actually. Yeah.
So what key points did he use to try to dissuade you from taking this job?
The point of the talk, and this, no matter how well you do the talk, it doesn't always work. And I think actually Kian was right. Kian, he was hard to warm to. He was one of those people, and I'm sure everybody has these people in their life where when you first met them, you thought, is this person going to like me? Am I going to like this person? Is this a person that has a good place in my life? And I don't want to give spoilers to the book, but our relationship does grow and we end up living through a lot of stuff together. But yeah, Kian was trying to put me off. And then that's what the talk is doing, is trying to put you off doing the job if what it is that you want to do is just sell cheese and have a laugh with the customers and eat cheese, right? We've been talking about all the nice things about cheese, but there's a lot of non-nice things about cheese. They're messy and sticky and stinky. And we have to make sure that there's a healthy environment, that we're respecting the food handling rules. All of that stuff requires constant cleaning. Cheeses are heavy. They need to be displayed properly. That means they need to be cut. For instance, these big Alpine wheels are 40 kilograms, which is what, 90 pounds, or, they're heavy. And closing down the stall after you've spent the entire day on your feet is a lot of work. You're sweeping things, you're scrubbing things, you're bleaching things. All the cheeses need all sorts of crazy special care because they're really fussy. They have what I like to call in the book riders. You know how like Mariah Carey wants like a nice plant in their room. The cheeses want to be wrapped in paper or wrapped in plastic or in a bed of straw. They all have a thing that if you don't respect with them, that they're just going to react badly and they will get you the next day and you'll taste them and they'll be like, not very nice. So all of that is a lot of work. And what Kian was trying to do was to say, if you're not up to it, then you shouldn't take the job because don't waste our time, sort of thing. And it still happens. I'm telling you, Natalie, there's people who've taken on the job this year who will leave after 2 months because they didn't realize they had to spend the time scrubbing the floor.
Right, right.
Or in one case, like cleaning the staff toilet. Like who else is going to do it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yours, wine, fashion, publishing, a lot of these are romance industries where people like to dabble
Yes.
and they think I like to read, I like to drink wine, I like to eat cheese. Why wouldn't I want to work in this industry? But it's work, like I like to say, if you want to open a winery, be sure you want to be a farmer. It's not that glamorous. It's fancied up farming or whatever. So anyway.
It's a ton of work. It's hard work. And there's a lot of heartache involved as well, because to get them where they're fantastic and just in the right place, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Sure. So your first task was sweeping for mouse droppings. Your manager, Tom, said to take this seriously. Were you on a quota system with the mice poops or something?
The mice poops they're important to keep track of. This is an open air market, so this is not a shop. Shops occasionally have mouse problems. Our shop does not have a mouse problem, but we also have the stall at Borough Market where we have mice and birds and all sorts of flies and all sorts of little wildlife. Occasionally you will get a squirrel, although not as many as here. What I didn't know a lot of things, and I didn't know almost anything about mice, but they are incontinent, so they just kind of scurry around and they will poop whenever they need to poop, basically. It's not an appointment to poop, it's just they poop. What I learned about our cheese stall too, because we have the pest control people come around and I always end up chatting with them and they say that our stall is the cleanest or one of the cleanest in the market and that the poops are the mice transiting through our stall because all the cheeses are locked away. Everything has to be sort of airtight and refrigerated at different degrees depending on the cheese and their riders. And so the reason why you want to know how many poops there are is you can gauge how long the mice are spending in the stall. So it does really actually matter.
Huh, wow. Okay. Back to the more savory part of the job.
Right? You're welcome. You asked.
The reality, I know. I walked right into that.
Sometimes you see the mice. I mean, lately you've been seeing, I call them mice. I call them all Max the mouse. Sometimes you see Max, which is surprising. I'm like, Max, what are you doing out here in the middle of the day? But then he'll scurry away. But that's a kind of, I don't know why recently. Sometimes it's change of seasons.
Okay. You write about carroting the Comté using the cheese iron, a thin, hollow, sharp-edged metal probe that's plunged deep into the center of an 80-pound wheel, twisted to remove a small cylindrical core sample known as a plug or a carrot. Tell me why. What's happening there? They're assessing the cheese's aroma, texture, and flavor?
The whole thing, and it's done throughout the life of the cheese. So what you'll get a wheel of, let's say, Stilton, or a wheel of cheddar, or a wheel of Comté in this case, that will have because you take the sample out and you take a bit off and then you put it back in because you can't just leave a hole in the cheese because obviously that's not going to work out because oxygen will be getting in, etc. So we always will see where it has been carroted in the past. And what they're trying to do as they mature it, and what we will then do as well, is we're trying to grade the cheese when it's leaving the maturation caves. It's a very serious business. It's also a serious business for us, but what we're trying to do is figure out where it is in its life and what its flavor profile is. We will send our buyer, she will go over to the caves in Switzerland or in France, and she will go through a process of carroting the different wheels with the producers. And she's looking for certain tasting notes in the cheeses that she is choosing. And interestingly, with the Comté, which this is something I actually didn't realize until the last couple of years, as I'm always learning more about how the business goes. But there's another major Comté importer in the UK, and they have a slightly different profile of what they want the Comté to taste like, and ours has to be something that is not exactly the same, so that what you know that when you're getting our Comté, you're getting a certain profile. She's looking for that. Comté can taste really different from one to the other. I'm not talking about bad or good. It's about something like toffee. Like, does it taste? Ours tastes a bit more, I think, toffee nutty, or something can taste grassy. So she's trying to get it in that zone so that predictably the Comté that you'll buy from us will taste not exactly the same, but at least sort of similar from wheel to wheel.
Sure. And there again, it reminds me of négociants, wine agents, more in the French system, that will go around to different growers and select different barrels to raise them or the élevage or elevate them. But they're looking for certain distinct characteristics. So when that négociant's name is on the bottle, you're getting a certain style of, say, Burgundy. And they use the pipette, of course. They use that sort of big glass turkey baster to draw from the barrel the carroting of wine. Now, you mentioned that those scoring 14 or higher get the prestigious green label, Comté Extra, while those scoring 12 to 14 receive the brown label. It's only those that get the highest scores that can be exported, I believe. What do you think about the whole grading system for cheese and wine? Do you think it's of service, or is it problematic in any way?
I think it is of service, very much so. I don't think what they're trying to do by grading the Comté is to stop certain flavors from coming through. I think they're trying to stop flaws from getting through. And the cheeses that fall below the standard for the Comté appellation are still used. It's just that the uses that you'll make of them will be more, for instance, an industrial food production, cooking, because Comté is a cheese that you often use to mix into a sauce or a recipe. And when they're a lower grade, then maybe they're better for that. We will sometimes, when we have a piece of Comté that has been too long cut from the wheel, we'll sell it at a discount as a cooking cheese, which still has its appeal. And one of the parts of the appeal will be the price being a bit lower. And it'll be delicious in a recipe, absolutely. So I think it's good for us so they want to make sure there's a level of humidity that's right, that it feels right in the mouth, that it's not too acidic, a whole bunch of things that they'll be looking for in order to grade it, to make sure that it's of a standard. I mean, from there, it's not good. It doesn't mean you're not still going to get variations or even a Comté that you don't like, because it's such a personal thing. There are, frankly, Comtés that I often get. I always say to people, I'm a big booster of Canadian cheeses or cheeses that are made locally. And there's a lot of great ones.
What are some of your favorite, by the way?
In our part of the world, there's a cheese called La Beta Séguin, which I love, which is a sort of brie, but it's a little bit punchier, a little bit sort of fuller tasting. It's made by a cooperative on Île aux Grues. There's a wash-drying cheese called Le Mérique, which is a really good price, and it's got lots of great funky notes to it. There's a Guns Hill in Ontario, which is terrific. They do a bunch of fantastic cheeses. Stone Town, north of London, Ontario, they have some fantastic alpine cheeses. And what I guess I'm saying is that the wild card when you're here in North America and you're importing cheese is that you don't know the voyage that cheese is taken as well as, for instance, we would over there. I suppose that's true there as well. But, I think once you cut a wedge of cheese from the wheel, you are instantly shortening its lifespan because it's now been taken away from the whole and it will start to lose in flavor. It will get drier. And so sometimes you can buy a piece of Comté where in Canada, I mean, the same can be true in Europe too, but if it's not been cared for properly, it's not going to taste very nice, even though it has that green ribbon.
Okay, interesting.
And you shouldn't be afraid of saying so, is the other thing I would say. Taste it. Always taste. If you're going to a cheese shop, as opposed to buying it in the supermarket or buying it at one of those big retailers, bulk retailers, where they'll sell you a big chunk of Comté, the advantage to going to the cheese shop is exactly this: is you have a relationship with the mongers, you get to talk to them, you get to taste them, you know what you're getting, and if you don't like it, then don't buy it.
No, that's true. I should do that myself more often. Ask to taste first. Yes, it's a great tip.
And fun.
Yes, and fun and free. I'll just have a sampling and I'm good. In wine, there's a concept of drinking windows, the period when the bottle's at its peak. You describe Vacherin becoming so ripe as to make you wince, and newer cheesemongers wanting to throw it out. One of the cheesemongers, Fanula, slices it up and watches people flock to them and snap up the cheese. Is knowing when the cheese is truly past its prime a skill that takes years to develop, or can you develop a good sense of it like within a month or two?
What I would say about that is that weirdly, you have a pretty good sense of when a cheese is past its prime. Just innately, you will taste a cheese, Natalie, and say, this has been around too long. It's got a sort of ammoniated taste, or it's just too strong. We know. What you learn is that people don't have the same tastes as you do. You also learn to respect that. And so I will think this cheese is past its prime in that instance with that Vacherin, which is a seasonal mountain cheese with a strap of spruce bark around the side that people will often put in the oven. It can be really big and it can be really funky to the point where sometimes when I'm served it, I'm like, I don't think I want to eat this. It's not for me. And then there will be people who will eat that exact same cheese in that exact same situation and say, this is exactly what I was looking for. What I think you learn is you learn not to judge. If someone likes that cheese, that's great. For me, that is a flaw. For you, that is what you're looking for. And now we know it. So I think what we always have to do, and when a new monger will say, I think there's something that's not right with this cheese, with this Tom, for instance, you'll always say, have you tasted it? And one of the things you do as a monger, and I've actually just written a piece about this for a cheese industry magazine, is recently I got some pretty gnarly looking pieces of Stilton that had somehow been left on a shelf over the Christmas period. A lot of people buy Stilton at Christmas, and then there's all sorts of pieces left over. And I thought that they would have to be discounted or wasted. And after having given them a trim, and I was doing this while I was because it was a slower morning, I was doing this at the stall while people were walking by. I gave a taste to one of these gnarly pieces that I had then cleaned up and brushed up. And it tasted so good.
Huh, okay.
Better than what I thought was the wheel that we had that day. And as I was tasting it, a customer was there and said, what is that you're tasting that you seem to like so much? And so I gave him a taste and he said, wow, just give me that piece right away. And I was going to mark it down. So yeah, that is a valuable piece of cheese I had. And in the case of what you mentioned in the book, people will write off a piece of cheese because either they've made a judgment that they haven't really explored or that they're projecting onto the cheese their own tastes. There are a lot of people who like really strong cheese. I don't actually like it when it's that strong, but people will like it. So you just have to make sure that people know this. So what you never want to do is sell a piece of very strong cheese to someone who doesn't like strong cheese. You want to sell the strong cheese to the person who likes the strong cheese. You need to get to know the customers. You need to respect that everybody has different taste buds.
You do talk about the stink questers, people looking for the stinkiest cheese as often some sort of coming of age ritual or freak show mentality. What are they doing? Are they just trying to, is it like a hazing ritual? I don't know. Or are there people who just, I want to eat the stinkiest cheeses all the time?
I think it's a bit of both. And having just talked about respecting everybody, I have a slight issue with the stink questers because I think that in some cases they are just looking to be grossed out. Oh, this really tastes rank. Eat it, eat it. And they're trying to sort of like push someone to eat something that smells like, a foot that hasn't been washed for a long time. They're trying to kind of like, let's be honest, it's often guys, it's often men who get excited by these strong smells and trying to force people to eat it. It has happened, and it's in the book where you have a father and their son, and he's trying to get them to taste, let's say, a really ripe époisse as a sort of, if you can eat it, then you're a man sort of thing.
And the époisse, just for those who don't know, kind of smells and tastes like ammonia,
If it tastes like ammonia, I would say that is a flaw. Ammonia is one of those things that I think genuinely is a flaw, but it will also get really sort of funky, stinky, big aggressive flavor, meaty, marmitey, and really in your face about it. But it's not always like that, by the way. Sometimes when it's younger, it really can be one of my favorite cheeses, but also a cheese that I won't eat. And when it's in that stage where I won't eat it, some people think it's great. So yeah, you'll get a father trying to force it on a son to try to make a point that they need to
get some hair on their chest.
That's exactly it. And so there is a bit of that. And I think it's sort of like, we're just down the road from the London Dungeon. There is a kind of like freak show thing that goes on with some of the funny cheeses. I'm a bit protective of them because I think I don't want people to be laughing at the cheeses either. I want them to be respecting them. But honestly, if that's what you like, then great.
Yes, you are protective. You write that you once leaned into a Munster after someone insulted it. You whispered, "Don't listen to them." A lot of cheese empathy.
Yeah. Munster really does smell bad breath or an unwashed part of your body or body odor or an armpit, or it really just does. I'm sorry.
Sure. Facts be facts, yes.
And that's how it smells. It doesn't, people will say it doesn't taste like that. And it doesn't not taste like that, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite cheese. It tastes sort of sausagey, but that's a thing that it doesn't work for me, but people will snap it up. People love it and cook with it, and they want that odor. But when we have, like, for instance, wheels of Munster sitting out unwrapped, you will sometimes forget that they're unwrapped, and you'll just be wondering, what is going? Someone didn't brush their teeth today, and then you're like, oh, it's because I haven't wrapped the Munster yet.
Well, you also have that word from under, from an American couple describing a langre, a pungent, a pungent washed rind cow's cheese from the Champagne region. And you said from underwear. What does that slang term mean?
So I had never heard it before because it was this couple's words. They invented it, but I have now published it, and maybe someday it will be in a dictionary of cheese tasting notes. I don't know. But yeah, they said from under, and they said it a couple of times. And I finally said, excuse me, what are you saying? And they said from under, from plus under. So from under, and I'm from under where? And they started laughing, and they said, well, from under the covers, from under your trousers, from under... That was
those
their
parts
word
not washed that you referred to earlier. From down there.
Basically, yeah, it's funk. What's going on with these cheeses is they're almost, if they have that kind of from under, to use the word, it's because they're a washed rind cheese. So this is a cheese that, as it's maturing, it's usually not a very, it's not like Gruyere is and Comté are washed as well, but they're big Alpine cheeses. and they don't have that from undergoing on. But in a younger soft cheese that is washed rind, like Langres, like Munster, like the one I mentioned, Limerick, which is made in Quebec. There's loads of them. People love them. They're delicious. What happens is that as you wash them with a saline solution, what it's doing with the pH is it's encouraging the development of a pair of brevibacteria, Aurantiacum and linens. And those are the exact, in the case of B. linens, that is the bacteria that grows on your feet.
Oh, wow. So it's
So
specific, yeah.
Yeah. And the Aurantiacum, I'm probably not saying it right, will give it a sort of an orangey hue. Often these cheeses are slightly orange, slightly ochre, sometimes a little bit on the pink side. And they also have this funk, this fromunda. And that's why. But people seek it out. It once you start getting into it, it's pretty delicious. I mean, I don't like them when they're super far big fromunda, but I like them a lot. So I will like a Langres up to a point, and then I'm like, okay, that's for you,
That's
not
good.
for me.
Well, it's almost like developing a taste in wine and developing a taste for bitterness and tannins and like a Barolo or something. But why do some people douse their Langres with champagne and set it on fire? What's happening there? Why are they doing that?
There are all these, many of the cheeses are tightly associated with their regions. And so there are just a bunch of customs that then grow up with the cheeses. They become a point of pride. Like, for instance, when we in Borough Market, when French people walk by, they like stick their chests out and they name all the cheeses. They're so proud of it. So with Langres, it's a cheese that as it matures, they don't flip it like most cheeses are flipped, and so it develops a sort of divot, a decompression in the center.
Okay.
It looks like an orange brain. It's really wrinkly, and that's because of some of the molds on the surface and because of the bacteria on them. And so I guess people must have at some point thought, well, this divot, let's put something in this divot. And because it comes still from the Champagne region, people will pour champagne in it, but they'll also set it alight. And they'll set it alight with usually Marc de Bourgogne. So it's a marc, like a brandy, like an eau de vie from Burgundy. And then they'll light it and it'll get its, I guess it's the same way that you might light a dessert, for instance.
A flambé.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a sense of ceremony too. And I've not done it. Maybe I need to do it.
For the next book.
If we ever meet, we'll do it. Yeah.
Oh, yes, of course.
We'll
that
light
too.
one.
Just for the heck of it.
You choose the wine.
Yeah. We're drinking the champagne, though. We're not lighting it on fire.
Okay.
I don't do that
idea.
to champagne. Oh, I want to get to the 1924 cheese. I think you call it a narcotic cheese, and it caught you in a trance. But you mentioned this at the outset. So the whole appellation system came into being with Roquefort, 1925. Yep. Therefore, they've got this saucy little blue cheese called 1924. What are they saying with that?
So this is a recent cheese,
okay.
And what they're doing, it's sort of inside baseball for cheesemakers. But what they were setting out to do, people are always trying to make new cheeses because people do, and they're trying to make new wines, and so you have the wines that people know and love and that have a history and a tradition, and then you have these new ones that come along. And in the case of 1924, it's a relatively new cheese, less than 10 years. They set out to try to make a cheese that was the love child of Stilton and Roquefort. So Roquefort is made with sheep's milk and Stilton is made with cow's milk. So they did a blend of a cheese. And the reason they called it 1924 is because it is the same shape as a Roquefort. So it's a wheel about yay big. And it has the same sort of bluing in the paste and the same moist paste. But it has cow's milk in it. And to be a Roquefort, it has to be oldie sheep's milk.
Okay.
But what these guys were saying was, actually,
back in 1925, some people did make Roqueforts with cow's milk and sheep's milk, but now you can't. So that's the point of the 1924. So the 1924 just happened to be that cheese that sort of knocked me off for the very first time, knocked me off my chair. Basically, when I tasted it, it was so delicious, so transcendent. It was so many things were happening with it at the same time, and it was ticking every single box because it had the creaminess. It also had the butteriness because it's a mix of sheep and cow's milk. Sheep has a bit more fat in it. It has this line of sweetness in it that Roquefort. Roquefort can have sweetness too, and it tends to be a bit fruity. This has a sort of sweetness that I associate with Oreo cookies. Yeah, exactly. Plus all the funkiness, plus the blue flavors, and all of that together was just
wow. I've got to find that cheese. That sounds like what you call a narcotic cheese, right?
Narcotic grade cheese. I mean, the problem is that not every wheel is going to taste like that. So it just happened that when I began working, there was a batch that was blow your mind. It had weird sort of yellow mold on it too, which I always associate with being like almost like a highlighter pen, which has a name and I've forgotten it because I've only been in the business for a few years, but other like super serious cheese people will know exactly what it is. And somehow it tasted just that good that I couldn't stop eating it. And I had low self-control at that point in my career. And so I was I pretty much had 1924 smeared on my face as I was.
That's great. Well, you call those cheeses narcotic. I call certain wines that are so good intervention wines, meaning I need an intervention to stop. I need a whole family meeting. Why we've brought you here is you're drinking too much of that rosé.
I'm going to steal that word. I love that word. I'm taking it.
Please, it's yours. But you referred to one customer as maybe Gwendolyn Christie. She was the actress who played Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones TV series. You weren't sure though if it was her, but she liked that 1924 cheese, right? You said she ordered impossibly large pieces of it.
Yeah, so she would come up to the stall, a big, imposing English woman with a shock of blonde hair. I mean, I just sometimes get nervous about asking people, "Who are you?" And she came up to the stall and said, "I'm looking for a cheese. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a year, it's 4 digits, 1924. That's it." And I said, "Okay, well, we have some right here. I'll take a slice. I'll take a slab." An impossibly large slab. Yeah. So she really was super keen on it. And I said, "Would you like to taste it?" And she said, "I mean, I want to eat it. I don't feel I need to taste it." But I said to her, "Look, you should taste it." And I will say to everyone listening, even if you have had it in the past, even if you love it, even if it like blew your socks off.
Yes.
If you can taste it. Taste it.
I can see now with all the variables that it might not be the same thing. Yeah.
And you could end up with a great surprise, but you could also be disappointed.
Yeah.
And then if you've tasted it, you're not going to be disappointed. You'll know it's going to taste like that. You'll taste it and you'll say, "Oh, well, this is not the same as I remember it." And do you know what? It's not the same as you remember it because it's not the same cheese. It's a different wheel. It was made at a different time of year. It was probably milk from a different animal. It might have been made by a different cheesemaker. It might have been made at a different site. So many things.
What is the strangest question that a customer has ever asked you?
I think the strangest thing that I have ever seen I've seen a lot of strange things. By the way, Natalie, you see, I mean, anyone working with the public sees a lot of strange things. And we have a lot of tourism, so you get a lot of strangeness. But I think the strangest thing was a woman who came up once to the stall and tasted through just loads of cheeses. And she said, "I'm looking for a round cheese." And I thought at first it was because she was looking for a specific cheese that she remembered was round, but she just, I think, didn't like the triangles. She didn't like the look of them. She didn't like the pyramids. She didn't like the square ones. She didn't like the big wedges of Alpine cheeses. she just wanted a little round cheese.
Oh, okay.
I think she wanted a circle.
Well, we're happy to
It's
oblige.
fine.
Yeah.
I was super happy. We found it. She was so happy.
There you go. And that's what was important in the end.
Yeah.
Michael, there were so many cheeses I wanted to ask you about, as you like, just different types. Your book has so many, from gateway cheeses to the history of mistresses and kings and queens. We're not going to get to them all. So people definitely have to get your book, The Cheese Cure, because they will have endless dinner party details and stories to share and impress, but just to the joy of learning about cheese for themselves and following your journey. Much as I hesitate, I'm going to wrap it up, but is there anything we haven't covered that you would like to mention before we do?
I suppose this is a bit of advocacy, but yeah, I would say that one of the things that is important for those of us here in Canada, the same is true of the UK, is raw milk cheeses are fantastic. Raw milk cheeses, which are made from milk that's not pasteurized. So there's an elevated risk factor working with unpasteurized milk, but it's different drinking the liquid unpasteurized milk and making cheese with it. And currently, there are import restrictions here. In the United States, it's even harder to get unpasteurized cheeses. They're so good, and they are, when they're done right, they are absolutely safe to eat, and there are more interesting things happening with them. I would say, if you're a foodie and you have the power to sort of say things to politicians, let's try and loosen up a bit on the restrictions on raw milk cheeses and try them. Okay. And when you go to France, and they, by the way, we can sell raw milk cheeses here, and there are a number of them here in Canada. Give them a try. See what you think.
I will. Yes. Good advice. That's great. Michael, where can we find you and your book online?
So it's pretty easy to find. The Cheese Cure, you will find it at all the big online retailers. You can order it from the big Canadian and American bookshops. It has the UK edition. There's an audiobook which you have to get from Audible in the UK or another source in the UK. And there's going to be paperback editions that are going to be coming out in May in the UK and in September in North America.
Terrific. Well, congratulations on this book. It's just a marvelous read for
Thank
so
you.
many reasons. But next time we'll have to bring our pipette and our carrot and our have a little toast and burn some non-champagne and eat lots of cheese.
We need to have a wine and cheese party.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Absolutely, it would be.
This has been a delight, Michael. Thank you
for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure chatting, and lovely to speak to everyone out there who are your regular podcast listeners and viewers. And eat some cheese.
Yes.
Taste the cheese.
Taste the cheese.
See what you like and push your boundaries.
Absolutely. Cheers to that. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our chat with Michael. Here are my takeaways. Number 1, why does buying from a good cheese shop often beat picking up a wedge from your local supermarket? As Michael explains, once you cut a wedge of cheese from the main wheel, you're instantly shortening its lifespan because it's been taken away from the whole and it will start to lose flavor. The other thing is, taste, always taste, especially if you're going to a cheese shop as opposed to buying it in the supermarket. The advantage at a cheese shop is exactly that. You have a relationship with the cheesemongers, you get to talk to them, taste with them, and you know what you're getting. Number 2, how do people underestimate the physical labor and demands of being a cheesemonger? Well, Michael explains he got the cheese talk, the dissuasion technique delivered by a fellow cheesemonger to discourage him from taking the job. And as he says, if all you want to do is sell cheese and have a laugh with customers and eat great cheeses, go away. Cheeses are messy and stinky and sticky, and they have to make sure there's a healthy environment, so they're respecting all the food handling rules, which requires constant cleaning. Cheeses are heavy and have to be displayed properly and cut well. The big Alpine wheels are 40 kilograms or almost 90 pounds. And when you close down the stall and you've spent the entire day on your feet, it's a lot of work. All the cheeses need crazy special care because they're fussy. And they all have a thing they need to be wrapped away in particular papers or different respects. And if you don't do it correctly, they will get you the next day. And finally, how does using a cheese iron reveal where a wheel of cheese is in its life? So Michael writes about carroting the Comté, and he says it's done throughout the life of a cheese. You have a wheel, say Stilton or Cheddar or Comté. You take a sample out, take a little bit out or off, and then put the rest back in because you can't leave a hole in the cheese. The oxygen would get in. And you see where it's been carroted in the past. And what we're trying to do, he says, is mature it to its peak. Sometimes you're also trying to grade the cheese. When it's leaving the maturation caves, this is a very serious business. All right, if you missed episode 105, go back and take a listen. I chat about festive wine and cheese pairings with author Janet Fletcher. I'll share a short clip with you now to whet your appetite.
There are lots of similarities. You know, to me, one of the biggest ones is that cheesemakers, like winemakers, start with the simplest palette of ingredients. They have milk and they have cultures and they have rennet, just like winemakers have grapes and yeast.
Grape juice, fresh liquids that are going to be fermented.
What gives us such a range of taste experiences in the cheese world or the wine world are the decisions that the producer makes along the way to take it in one direction or another. And of course, with wine, there's a little more of that place element that comes into play, a little bit less so with most cheeses. But with cheese, it's more that the cheesemaker makes a million little decisions all along the way in that recipe that takes milk and cultures and a little bit of rennet and makes so many different kinds of cheese.
You won't want to miss next week when we chat with Dr. Charles Knowles, the New York Times best-selling author of Why We Drink Too Much, The New Science of Alcohol. And to give you a taste of future guests, we'll have Millie Milliken on artisanal tequila, Nick Fogg on the wines of Japan, Professor Mark Scarlotta on the intersection of wine and religion, Dr. Dave Nutt on wine and health, Ben Hawkins on port and sherry, global bartending champion Caitlin Stewart on fresh new cocktails, humorist Marie Chevrier on how to sound wine smart, Kara Newman on 40 cocktails to close out any evening, James Chatto on the iconic recipes and drinks that have shaped our taste, Liz Gabet on rosé, Christiane Restre on sake, and Marisol de la Fuente on the wines of Argentina. Do you have a question for any of our guests? Please let me know. Do you know someone who'd be interested in learning more about buying and enjoying cheese? Please let them know about the podcast. Email or text them now while you're thinking about it. It's easy to find the Unreserved Wine Talk podcast. Just tell them to search for that title or my name, Natalie McLean Wine, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, their favorite podcast app, or they can listen to the show on my website at nataliemclean.com/podcast. Email me if you have a sip, dip question, or if you'd like to win one of 7 drinks books I have to give away. And yes, those future guests will also be giving away books, so you can get a jump start by contacting me now. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this episode, or if you've read my book or are listening to it, email me at natalie@nataliemclean.com. In the show notes, you'll find a link to take a free online food and wine pairing class with me called The 5 Wine and Food Pairing Mistakes That Can Ruin Your Dinner and How to Fix Them Forever at nataliemclean.com/class. And that's all in the show notes at nataliemclean.com/388. Thank you for taking the time to join me here. I hope something great is in your glass this week. Perhaps a wine that pairs beautifully with a cheese that you tasted before buying it at your local cheese shop. You don't want to miss one juicy episode of this podcast, especially the secret, full-bodied bonus episodes that I don't announce on social media. So, subscribe for free now at nataliemclean.com/subscribe. Meet me here next week. Cheers.